it's Jane back with another video. If this is your first time ever seeing my face, please hit the subscribe button down below and turn your post notifications if you want to. If not, then hey girl, hey, let's get straight into it today. Today is Monday, which means today is Murder Mystery Monday. So let's get straight into the video. We talk about a murder mystery that I think is interesting while I do my makeup. So let's get straight into it, guys. So today we're going to be talking about Diane Downs. Diane Downs was born in Phoenix, Arizona on August 7th, 1955 to her parents, Frederick Lyndon and Willadine Fredrickson. I'm so sorry if I pronounced the names wrong. She was the oldest child out of 4, and I guess she had to really set an example for her siblings, because that's usually what happens to the oldest one. They're used to set an example for the younger ones. But at the age of 12, Diane claims that her dad did sexually abuse her, which did significantly, as you hear in the story later on, did trouble her in her future. So at the age of 14, Diane did become more rebellic towards her parents and everyone in her life. She began wearing more scandalous clothes, changing her hair up so that she looks more mature, and just like basically trying to move away from the childlike features that she had, showing off more of her mature, feminine teenager style, I guess. Also at the age of 14, Diane dropped her first name. Yeah, guys, her first name is not Diane. It was Elizabeth. So she had dropped her first name, basically told everybody to stop calling me Diane, y'all. Call me Elizabeth. And Elizabeth was her middle name. Diane graduated from Moon Valley High School in Phoenix, Arizona. So she was a high school graduate. So props to her, because some kids just don't make it through. This is also where she met her husband, Steven. I'm not sure. I read it was Steven, then I read it was Steve. So we're just gonna call him Steve. She met her husband, Steve, and they both graduated from that high school. From the jump, also, her parents did not like the relationship that she had with Steve, because she was supposed to be a holy child, and her having a relationship at the age of 16 just wasn't looking good for her parents. Her parents did not want her to have a relationship just yet. But a teenager is going to do what a teenager wants to do. So when they graduated, Steve went off to the Navy, and Diane had went off to the Pacific Coast Baptist Bible College. That's what it was called, in Orange, California. Now, while Steve was away in the Navy, they had promised each other that they would remain faithful and that they would stay loyal. But within that year, Miss Diane decided to have some affairs. And due to the affairs, she was kicked out of the Baptist Bible College because of promiscuous activity, and soon returned back home to her parents in Arizona. Now, even though she was unfaithful to her partner who was away, throughout the year that happened, they decided to stay together. Well, he decided to stay with her still. They ended up getting married. And in order to get married, she had to run away from home. When they had gotten married, obviously from the background of their relationship, infidelity, fighting over money, and just having a lot of like petty arguments, it was not looking like they were going to last very long. And so that's another reason why their parents did not want them together, because the relationship just was not good. But she went along with it anyway. I'm not sure why. But soon after getting married, in 1974, they had their first child, who they named, it was a daughter, who they named Christy Ann. 6 months later, after having her first child, Christy Ann, Diane decided to also go to the Navy, but unfortunately returned after 3 weeks because of severe blisters. Not funny, but it's kind of funny. It's not cracked up for everybody. Like, the military is not for everybody, like, at all. And I guess Diane was one of those people. She tried and she was like, nope, not for me. I'm gonna go back home. But upon returning home, she realized that even though like having babies wasn't good for her marriage, she enjoyed being pregnant. So then in 1976, they had another child, a daughter named Sherry Lynn. Now after that, he realized that Diane just wanted to keep on having kids and keep on having kids. Like, she did not want to stop. And Steve was like, yo, 2 kids is enough for me. So he decided to have a vasectomy. Anne was not happy about it, but what could she do? He had it, and she can't change his decision to not have kids. But so she found other ways to get pregnant, obviously, because that did not stop Anne from becoming pregnant yet again. But after getting pregnant again, she decided to have an abortion because obviously it was a child from wedlock, a child from another man who was not her husband. In 1978, the Downs decided to move to Mesa, Arizona, and found jobs as a mobile home manufacturing company. And then Diane quickly began to have different affairs with coworkers. Not surprisingly, she fell pregnant yet again. Not surprised at all there, are you? And then in 1979, after falling pregnant with a male co-worker, Diane gave birth to a son who she named Daniel, Danny for short, as a nickname. After Diane had fallen pregnant, and even though Stephen had gotten a vasectomy, he knew the child wasn't his, but he accepted the child with open arms as his own. So that was very big of Stephen. I was quite surprised to hear that. But Diane is just trifling. Like, why would you do that to the man? Like, your husband. You're supposed to be faithful no matter what, and that's what you're gonna go do? But whatever. Then a year later, turns out that their marriage had broken up and they had gotten a divorce from each other. So the Downs, Stephen and Diane, were no more. But I don't blame him, because probably the arguing and just everything with the affair and not trusting her, of course, probably mad problems had arisen. So I'm not blaming him. I'm blaming her. But they need help. They needed help bad. Oh, did I mention that it was 1980 when they had divorced? Now, after their divorce, Diane had spent years off and on with different men, moving in with different men, until she decided to get a full-time job at a United Postal Service center. Because Diane was always on her escapades with men, she didn't really seem like a stable mom, so the kids mainly stayed with either Diane's parents, with Stephen or Steve, or Danny's father. Now, whenever the kids did stay with Diane, it was said that the kids looked hungry, taken care of poorly, their clothes looked pretty old. Like, they just seemed like Diane was not taking care of them. And these were Diane's neighbors making all these claims, so like, what do they have to lie for? It just seemed like she just didn't care about her kids, not one bit, which is really sad for a mom. But I guess there are mothers out there who just don't give a rat's booty about their children, so she was definitely one of them. Apparently on a few occasions, the kids were found asking their neighbors for food. Like, what? Diane, bro, what? I was shook when I read that. I was like, nah. Where's PCS? I don't know what it's called. Where's the child protect? CPS. Where's CPS, bro? They should have been called and there should have been an investigation. I didn't read that there was an investigation, but there should have been, because that's wild crazy. Now, usually if Diane wasn't able to hire a sitter, she would still leave the kids at home to go to work and leave the oldest, which I think was Christy, who was 6 years old at the time, to basically watch the rest of them. I think it was four of them at this time. It was Christy, Cheryl, Danny. I guess it was 3 of them. 3 of her kids at the time. The lady was pregnant too many times. In 1981, Danny was accepted into a surrogate program and was able to like receive I think her rate was like $10,000 in order to be a surrogate for people who just couldn't have kids themselves. And I think she did give birth to one child who she named Jasmine, and then gave to the surrogate parents, or the, you know, y'all know what I mean. But like, she liked being pregnant so much. But I mean, like, giving somebody the gift of a child is honestly unrepayable, but she was charging $10,000. She then tried to like make her own like little job out of it, which failed, because I think she only did it one time and then it was clipped for her. She was done. But comment if she did do it more than once, but I only read that she did it once and then the rest of it failed. Now, it was during this time that Diane had met the love of her life, Nick Knockerberger. I think that's how you pronounce his name, or Knickerberger, something like that. We're just gonna call him Nick. She met the love of her life. Again, he was a married man, and like, he tried to cut things off with her and she just was not having it. He was a psycho, y'all. He cut things off because she wanted him to leave her wife and be like a father to her kids. And like, she's just that crazy to think a man would leave his wife for her. You already have like 3 kids. Where is their father, lady? But she thought that he was so in love with her that he would leave his wife, and he felt suffocated by her demands and just cut off the affair at that point and tried to reconcile things with his wife, because he just loves his wife so much. But I don't understand why men cheat if they just want to be with their wife. Like, what's the point? After Nick had ended the relationship, Diane was so devastated, she picked up and moved to Oregon. And she just never fully basically accepted that the relationship was over. So I feel like in my mind, what's gonna happen in the future is really triggered by this, and I think you guys will believe so as well. And it's just sad. It's just Now, even though Nick had said that the relationship was over, Diane was really obsessive and would write him letters and basically write to him and tell him like she wants to get back together and that she wants them to get married. But all in all, he basically met with her one last time in April 1983 and told her like, yo, I don't want to be with you. I'm trying to reconcile things with my wives. Please leave me alone. And I just don't want to be a daddy to your kids. Like, I don't want to have kids at all in my life. And so with that, she just took that and ran with it. She ran with it, y'all. She is wild. So in May 1983, shit hits the fan. And I don't know what happens in her head, but I think she just like lost it at that point. After, what is it? It happened in April. In April, he told her like he didn't want to be a father to her kids. And then in May, she just goes loco. Not a coincidence in my head. But in May 1983, around 10 p.m., Diane drives her kids down a secluded path and pulls over on the side of the road. Weird, right? I think that's super weird. Shoots her kids multiple times. All 3 of her kids, she shoots them multiple times. And then shoots herself in the arm. And then drives herself and her kids to the hospital. Like, what kind of I can't even talk. What kind of twisted person does that? And immediately when the hospital staff gets to the car, they notice that one of her kids is dead and 2 of them are barely alive. So obviously they call the police because this seems like murder. Well, this is a murder. There's 1 person dead and an attempted murder. Now let me tell you who died. Cheryl, the second daughter, was dead, and Danny and Christy were alive. Danny had a shot through his spine and ended up being paralyzed, and I think Christy was okay, but she did have a stroke afterwards. But let's continue on. So when police were contacted, the story that Diane had told them, when she was talking to detectives found her behavior just very strange and her story just super suspicious. One, she wasn't even really caring about the well-being of her kids. She was just really caring about calling Nick and not really calling the father of the kids and letting them know what just happened to their children, or hearing the updates about what's going on with her child anyway. And just overall, her story did not match forensic evidence at all. Did not match forensic evidence whatsoever. Before I tell you about how it didn't match, let me tell you what Diane had said happened that night. She said she had pulled over for a hitchhiker to help him get home, and he pulled out a gun and then threatened to shoot her kids. And then when she didn't do what he said, he shot her kids. And that was the story she gave them. Forensic evidence said that her story didn't match up at all because the gun splatters and the gunpowder were not found outside of the car. They were found on the inside of the car. Now, although Diane's arm was broken and shot, it was nothing compared to what happened to the kids. They claimed hers was superficial, which means that it basically grazed the skin. No, real damage occurred to her. But the kids, one ended up paralyzed and the other one was just dead. And the other one was just barely clinging on for life. It didn't compare. It made no sense. Also, the detectives were able to find her diary and saw that she was obsessed with this Knickerbocker guy. And apparently it turns out that he didn't want to have kids. So you're obsessed with a guy that doesn't have kids and you have kids. Strange, but I digress. A man that had seen Diane on the highway the night that this had happened had said that she was driving extremely slow in the direction of the hospital, and he reported her going about 5 to 7 miles per hour. Now, this raised a huge red flag for the police because Diane said she was speeding to the hospital to get her kids help, and now it's being reported that you were driving extremely slow. Lady, you lying. You don't gotta lie to me. But the most telling evidence that the detectives had gotten was from her own daughter, Christy, because Cheryl, her other daughter, had died. Now, Diane, feeling like the investigation was closing in on her as the one who did it because you were the one that did it. She tried to throw in another part to the story that might have investigators going on with the investigation for a few more months had they taken her seriously. Now, she ended up saying that the person that came and had shot up the car, the hitchhiker that she was trying to help, had known her because he had said her name right before she shot her kids. Now, if the investigators believed her and had taken what she had said to heart and really believed her, this would have made the investigation go on for a few more months. But they didn't, and basically arrested her and said yo, you kill your kids. You did it. Well, you tried to kill your kids. You killed one and ended up injuring the others for life. On February 28th, 1984, after 9 months of investigation, Diane, who is now pregnant, was arrested and charged with attempted murder and criminal assault of her 3 kids. That's just so sad for a mother. Just so sad that a mom would do that to her kids for no reason. For a man at that, a man, that's crazy. Trial lasted 6 weeks, and of course Diane was found guilty as charged, because the most damning evidence was your child. Because of course the most damning evidence was the fact that Christy had said that you shot her. Now mind you, Christy couldn't speak for a while, so Diane was really allowed to do whatever she wanted because Christy had a stroke and could not speak at the time. But when she was able to recover her speech and say that her mom had did it and her mom had shot herself in the arm, you had to have known that was going to happen. You had to have known that your 8-year-old daughter who you shot was going to tell on you. What? But maybe it didn't cross her mind. And even though she did it for Nick never went back to her. You're crazy. You try to kill your kids to be with me? Boy. I can't even express how crazy this is and how much the story actually like made me feel some type of way. Like, I'm disgusted, literally disgusted. Now the persecutors, I think that's what you call them, in 1984, because now that their mom is in jail for trying to basically kill them, the kids were basically sent off to like foster care, and I guess the persecutors felt bad for them and was honestly just doing a good deed, because I think that they felt like those kids were really good kids. He adopted them. Him and his wife, Freddie Hughie, and his wife adopted Christy and Danny Downs, and they had a lot of medical expenses because of everything that had happened to them. And now Danny was paralyzed because the bullet had gone through his spine. So I feel like they did such a careless, not careless, what's it called? A heart, I don't know what it's called, but when somebody does like a good deed, and like, I don't know, I think they felt for those kids. Like, your mom really tried to kill you to be with a man. Like, she obviously just wasn't stable. So Diane's fourth child, who she gave birth to in prison, was obviously taken away from her and was given up for adoption. So yeah, and was also renamed. I think they renamed her Becky. In a later interview, Becky did say that she struggled as a younger kid knowing about her mom and kind of went down a wrong path, but now she is working and is in a better path in her life. So proud of you, Becky, for that one. So very proud of her. Now, Diane's father denies all claims that he had ever sexually abused her, and eventually Diane did recant her statement about ever having her dad sexually abusing her. And to this day, he believes that Diane is innocent and is on a website apparently giving a reward of $100,000 to whoever knows who shot his daughter and her kids. Like, sir, let's not be naive here. On July 11th, 1987, Diane escapes from prison, but is found 10 days later. How she escaped, I didn't even look into that because I just feel like this lady just needs to sit down. Like, when I read that she tried to escape, I'm like, bro, she needs some milk. Ripping out. Just lady. Oh, I didn't even say. Oh my god, I'm so sorry this is all over the place. She was sentenced to life in prison plus 50 years. So that was that. And she was charged. Yeah. She was charged of all charges. Murder, attempt to murder, and assault of her 3 children in 1984, July 1984. And wasn't allowed to a parole hearing until 25 years later, which took her to 2008. So 2008, she was eligible for parole. She still denied ever committing those crimes, and so she was denied parole and still claimed she has never changed her story, contrary to what everybody else is saying, because her story has changed multiple times from what I have seen online. It has changed from being 1 man to 2 men, them being drug dealers to them being police officers, doing faulty drug deals. And it's just like, lady. Now 2 years later in 2010, she received a second parole hearing, again still denying that she did the crimes, etc., and was denied again for parole. Now apparently there's a new law in Oregon that says that basically now she won't be eligible for another parole hearing until 2020, which is this year. So yeah, till this day, Diane Downs is in prison in California, still in prison, as she should be. And that's that. I didn't really look up what happened to the kids because I honestly just feel like the kids just need to like move on from this traumatic incident that happened in their lives. And so yeah, guys, that's all I really have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's Murder Mystery Monday. This one really, when I started reading, I was like, yeah, I have to do the story on this because I was just like so puzzled as to how a mother can do this to her kids, especially if you loved being pregnant. Maybe you didn't love your kids. I don't know. Let me know what you guys thought about it down below, and I'll see you guys next Monday for another Murder Mystery Monday. Bye, guys.